My name is Hari Sripadana, and our team is called the Blue Team. I have here with me Steve Sosa, Jerry Seinfeld, Jerry King. Jerry King has been instrumental in coming with this concept. Somebody in his family is unwell, so he's on the phone talking to them. So if he's not able to do the presentation, Steve and I will tag team concluding the presentation. But he's been the main source for developing the concept here. So I'm going to start with what the problems that we faced, how we tackled them, and Steve is going to talk about how we address those issues, and then rest of our team, Lee and Jerry, will chime in and do their parts in how they contributed to these ideas. So I want to start with today to ask you, all of you, what do you like the most about this site? I have an impression, and let's see if that is similar to yours. Anyone? What do you like that's existing? Perfect. Perfect. The orchard, right? Now, exactly. The views, the hills, the orchard. Now, these are the essential elements for any placemaking. Architects would just love to have such an opportunity to work with a site like this, because in those days, that when these were envisioned originally, all of this was orchards probably. But this has become even more special because these sites are some of those rarest that have been preserved and kept intact. That became our essential idea, to keep what's existing and to improve upon what's there, to build upon that, to enhance what you have, to keep the spirit of Los Altos and build upon that as a design. So when we looked at the site, as you could see here, this is Hillview at the bottom, San Antonio here, and this is the Edith Street that somewhat stops and picks up again. So it gives you a sense of orientation of what the site is like, northeast to the top. So we wanted to maintain the orchard, have minimal intervention, do the minimal change to the orchard, preserve the significant buildings that are there that are nice, reuse them as much as possible, improve the pedestrian and vehicular connectivities. Obviously, the orchards, the mature oak trees are also important. We wanted to preserve them as well. The orientation of the site, the stormwater retention of the site, and specifically the phasing of the building had all been contributing to the design of this. And Steve will explain now how those transformed into the design concept.
What we wanted to do was look at the entire site. And so we master planned the entire community center site. We looked at this line as being the marker between the community center side and the civic side of the site. What we also loved was all the orchard trees, the fact that the buildings looked like they were just placed down into this orchard. We wanted to keep that. Plus, the buildings are not historic, but they're of significance. You know, they were designed by Ernie Kump. They're a significant architecture, and so we wanted to maintain those existing buildings. So when it came to talking about the expansion of this area, we were thinking, well, why don't we go underground? And so that's what this little area here shows, is that we would do a library expansion, a city hall expansion, and a parking garage would be underground when this happened in the next phase. That way it would keep the level of the orchard just as it is. Keeping in the same grid, we would put in skylights that would allow natural daylight to come down into the underground expansion areas. And then we would continue Edith, but this would be a subtle ramp down, starting to expose the facades of the expansion areas. And that's what this was supposed to kind of illustrate, was that you would get this impression of going down and starting to expose the entrances. On this side of this, what we turned into a pedestrian walkway, is the community center side. The first thing we did was locate the existing soccer field over here. And what that did was allowed us to put a central parking garage right here that allowed this to become a walking street through here so that people would drive in. There's no parking other than accessible and maybe some quick drop-off parking for the library. They would pull into the parking garage or come down Hillview to this point and get into the parking garage, and allow them to access everything on the site. So they could go to the library, they could go to the history house, they could come over to the theater, and so it was all centralized. Another important part of our concept was to keep all this as green space, and so we tried to keep all the parking out of there, and this all becomes park-like green space on the interior of the site. So we located the community center buildings along Hillview this direction, in an east-west direction so that we could get northern daylight into the north side and southern, keep the southern light off the buildings by overhangs. A little bit of parking here. This served the house and provide parking for the soccer fields. In talking with the community earlier, we found out that it was important to have like a little playground in this area so that people could watch their kids playing soccer and watch their kids playing at the same time. So we might have to do some adjustment to the bocce ball courts that we show here and put some kind of playground. We kept the baseball field right where it was.